Hey guys, it's Mrs. Curley. We are coming back from spring break. I don't know if you're ready to come back from spring break yet. It's kind of been a crazy week. I think a lot of the teachers have still been teaching and working to get online stuff ready because we had nothing else to do. We have 3 weeks for sure that the governor has said that we are supposed to be doing virtual school until April 17th. And then at that point, we don't know. So we're just going to push forward and do as best we can in the next few weeks. There are slides you should be looking through today that give you some announcements. A couple things really quickly. I am planning to have a quiz tomorrow over House on Mango Street. We'll cover the notes from before spring break plus today's 2 new chapters. And then there'll be a vocab quiz on Wednesday. That will be probably multiple choice. That will be over the vocab section that we've been reviewing, that you've reviewed in Quizlet. The last section up to word 100. I think it's 73 to 100. There is a Quizlet.com set over that as well. We are going to try to streamline our curriculum a little bit more. I know it's a lot of work, and I know that a lot of students are having too many hours of work to do. So I am planning to do no more than 2 chapters of House on Mango Street at a time instead of 3. And then Fridays, there will be no new work. And that is a school building policy that Fulbright implemented this week. So Friday will be sort of a Google Hangout time, which will be optional. I can't require that you get online at a certain time. But I will set up times and tell you what time your class period has in your Google Classroom by Thursday. And then you'll have a 30-minute window where you can choose to log in with us sometime on Friday whenever your classes is set up, and you can see your friends, and it's more of a social catch up, as well as you can ask me any questions and get face-to-face contact. Again, it is optional. It's not going to be required because it will be live and not all students can make it at a certain time. So Friday is sort of like a catch-up day where you can get caught up. I am going to start doing an attendance form through a Google form every day that you just have to fill out. I think it'll be easier than tracing assignments to see if you completed them for attendance. So please make sure you can fill out the Google form every day just to get counted at present. But then there will be graded assignments that you have to still turn in within a week to be able to get a grade in the grade book, which will still be the same late work policy that I've had before. We're going to do 2 chapters on House on Mango Street today. There are notes that you should be able to see right here where I'm moving my cursor. I am actually not at my house right now. I am filming at a barn in a workroom as my daughter is here for a lesson. So hopefully nobody will walk in, but we'll just do the best we can. So we have a little bit less chapters to cover today, but I am going to read them and go through the notes about Elenita Carbs, Palm and Water, as well as Geraldo No Last Name. And then I'll post these notes in the Google Classroom area with today's slides. You are supposed to do the Mugshot Monday, and I would try to suggest posting comments to each other if you don't know what the errors are to help each other. And I'll also jump in to help you if you can find some of the problems, and you can just post comments underneath today's posted area. And then there's a 15-minute independent reading time. You can choose to do that whenever you want to, but you should be reading something on your own outside of school. And then there's this video that hopefully right now means you're watching it over these 2 chapters. And then there will not be any other assignment today. Tomorrow, we're going to do 2 more chapters in House on Mango Street, and there will be a written assignment to go along with it. And then by Wednesday, you'll get your essays from the Friday before spring break back, the ones that you wrote about the coronavirus and the pandemic, and you'll get some feedback on that, and we'll do a revision activity for Thursday. Okay, so today we are on Elenita Cards, Palm and Water, which is page 62, 63, 64, if you have your book. And this chapter does go along pretty closely with the same idea of superstition that we saw in Born Bad. If you remember the Born Bad chapter about Aunt Lupe and how she died, and Esperanza thought that she was going to go to hell and that she was cursed for being a bad person because she had mocked her aunt on the day of her death in a charade game. So this chapter follows that chronologically, as far as it still also focuses on this new idea of superstition. So Elenita seems to be another character from Mango Street. She is, I'm trying to move my screen up here. She is a psychic, is probably what we would call her in modern times. And she takes $5 charges from people to be able to read their fortune. So she's not in any other chapters besides this one. There is a lot of symbolism in this chapter to compare the child world to the adult world. And the adult world is more the superstitious world of Elenita and the future. And the child world is shown by the TV show and the Bugs Bunny and the cartoon references where Esperanza wishes she could go into the other room. So let's go ahead and read Elenita Cards, Palm, Water. And you can follow along or you can pause this, I assume, and then read silently if you prefer. Elenita Cards, Palm, Water. Elenita, witch woman, wipes the table with a rag because Ernie, who is feeding the baby, spilled Kool-Aid. She says, "Take that crazy baby out of here and drink your Kool-Aid in the living room. Can't you see I'm busy?" Ernie takes the baby into the living room where Bugs Bunny is on TV. Good lucky you didn't come yesterday, she says. The planets were all mixed up yesterday. Her TV is color and big, and all her pretty furniture made out of red fur like the teddy bears they give away at the carnivals, and she has them covered in plastic. I think this is on account of the baby. Yes, it's a good thing, I say, but we stay in the kitchen because this is where she works. The top of the refrigerator busy with holy candles, some lit, some not, red and green and blue, a plaster saint and a dusty Palm Sunday cross, and a picture of the voodoo hand taped to the wall. Go get the water, she says. I go to the sink and pick up the only clean glass there, a beer mug that says beer that made Milwaukee famous, and fill it with hot water from the tap, and then put the glass of water on the center of the table the way she taught me. And that indicates that Esperanza's been here before if she does this method the way she was already taught. Look at it. Do you see anything? But all I see is bubbles. Do you see anybody's face? No, just bubbles, I say. That's okay. She makes the sign of the cross over the water 3 times and begins to cut the cards. They're not ordinary playing cards, these cards. They're strange, with blonde men on horses and crazy baseball bats with thorns, golden goblets, sad-looking women dressed in old-fashioned dresses and roses that cry. There is a good Bugs Bunny cartoon on TV. I know, I saw it before and recognized the music, and I wish I could go sit on the plastic couch with Ernie and the baby, but now my fortune begins. My whole life is on that kitchen table, past, present, and future. And she takes my hand and looks into my palm and closes it and closes her eyes too. Do you feel it? Do you feel the cold? Yes, I lie, but only a little. Good, she says. Los Espiritus is here. And she begins. This card, the one with the dark man on the dark horse, this means jealousy, and this means sorrow. And here's a pillar of the bees and a mattress of luxury. And you will go to a wedding soon. And you have an anchor of arms. Yes, an anchor of arms. It's clear what that means. Ah, yes, a home in the heart. I see a home in the heart. Is that it? Well, that's what I see, she says, and gets up because the kids are fighting. Elenita goes up to hit and hug them, and she really does love them, but sometimes they are rude. She comes back and can tell I'm disappointed. She's a witch woman and knows many things. If you've got a headache, rub a cold egg across your face. Need to forget an old romance? Take a chicken's foot, tie it with a red string, spin it over your head 3 times and burn it. Bad spirits keep you awake. Sleep next to the holy candle for 7 days, and on the 8th day spit, and lots of other stuff. Only now she can see I'm sad. Baby, I'll look again if you want me to. And she looks again at the cards, palm, water, and says, a home in the heart. I was right. Only I don't get it. A new house? A house made of heart. I'll light a candle for you. All this for $5 I give her. Thank you, goodbye. Be careful of the evil eye. Come back again on Thursday when the spirits are stronger. Ah, may the Virgin bless you, and shuts the door. Okay, so let me get a battery because my computer's about to die. Hold on. Let's go through the notes. Sorry, I had to replug in this computer. I said before there's a lot of symbolism. I'm right here in the notes that things like the red fur references to carnivals, the Bugs Bunny cartoons that the baby Ernie was watching are all references to the child world. And Esperanza would rather be in the child world than the adult world, although she's really intrigued about her future. So she even says in the quote, I wish I could go sit on the plastic couch with Ernie and the baby on page 63. Now, Esperanza's whole goal for coming to see Elenita, we find out on the last page, is that she wants to find out about the house. And if you think back to the very first chapter of this book, we have the reference to the house, which was the dream house that she said she wanted in the very first chapter, which was no fence, large yard, it was white, and we talked about the meaning of the symbolism of innocence. So she's there to actually find out the answer to her question. Will I be able to get out of Mango Street? Will I be able to have a successful life and have this dream house? So Esperanza listens, and she's been there before, as I mentioned when I was reading, because she knows how to bring the water over the way that Elenita had told her previously. So she looks at bubbles in a glass. She cuts tarot cards, which have pictures on them, and reads her fortune. But Esperanza doesn't seem to understand anything that Elenita is saying, which also goes along with the fact that she's still somewhat in the child world and doesn't understand the adult interpretation. So again, when Elenita's saying, do you get it? Do you understand? Do you see water? Do you see bubbles? She even lies and says, yes, I lie, but only a little on page 63. So when we get to the end of the chapter, she asks specifically, what about the house? Because that's where this is what I came here for, which is the quote I listed here on page 64. So again, Elenita's answer is not clear. It's not, yes, you're going to get this house. Yes, you're going to get out of Mango Street. Yes, you're going to become wealthy. You're going to go to college. You're going to be better than Alicia. She doesn't give her anything concrete. She's very cryptic and confusing. And all she says is, I see a home in the heart. Now, because Esperanza is walking that balance between child world and adult world, she also doesn't understand abstractions like this. She wants a concrete answer. Yes, I will get a house. And instead, she's told a home in the heart, and she doesn't know what that means. Now, the best guess I could come up with for that is sort of that expression that home is where the heart is, that she may not get an exact house that she's dreaming of, but that she will feel at home somewhere. She will have a place, she will belong, and she'll be happy. And so it seems like a good fortune, though it's not the one she's looking for. She wants a guarantee that she will get out of Mango Street and get the white dream house. And that's not what Elenita tells her. So again, she says at the end, when Elenita says, I see a home in the heart, Esperanza does not understand. And she replies in her mind, only I don't get it. So she's very disappointed with the fortune that she pays $5 for, which, remember, that was a lot of money. She paid that amount to chip in for that bicycle in an earlier vignette. And so Elenita, again, feels like it's a good fortune, but Esperanza is disappointed. And the chapter ends with her kind of being shoved out of the door saying, see you next week. And it gives us kind of that thematic idea that Esperanza is looking for any kind of answer to be able to solve this dilemma of how will I make a better life for myself. And she's even going to extremes with psychics and superstitious beliefs. So that's the end of that chapter. The next chapter, let me grab my book, is Geraldo, no last name. This chapter brings up Marin. If you remember, Marin was a character. Still trying to move my box. Marin was the girl who went back to Puerto Rico, but again, she now is in this vignette, which implies that this chapter happened before she got sent back to Puerto Rico, so it is not in chronological order. So we don't know exactly when this event happened, but it does mention Marin again. So let me grab my book. Now, Geraldo, no last name, is a lot shorter than the chapter before. And again, it starts on page 65 if you want to follow along. And it mentions just really two people. Marin, the girl we knew with the dark nylon sold Avon. She was always snapping her fingers, singing in the doorway. And she ended up on the street corner somewhere back in Puerto Rico singing the same song somewhere. Now, this is the same flirtatious girl who's now at a dance hall. So this was before she got sent back to Puerto Rico. And she meets an immigrant man, Spanish speaking, named Geraldo. She doesn't even know his last name. So the title is Geraldo, no last name, to show that he's really not identifiable. So this is Geraldo, no last name, page 65 to 66. She met him at a dance, pretty too and young, and said he worked in a restaurant, but she can't remember which one. Geraldo, that's all, green pants and Saturday shirt. Geraldo, that's what he told her. And how was she to know she'd be the last one to see him alive? An accident, don't you know? Hit and run. Marin, she goes to all those dances. Uptown, Logan, Embassy, Palmer, Aragon, Fontana, the Manor. She likes to dance. She knows how to do cumbayas and salsas and rancheras even. And he was just somebody she danced with, somebody she met that night. That's right. That's the story. That's what she said again and again. Once to the hospital people, twice to the police. No address, no name, nothing in his pockets. Ain't that a shame? Only Marion can't explain why it mattered, the hours and hours for somebody she didn't even know. The hospital emergency room, nobody but an intern working all alone. And maybe if the surgeon would have come, maybe if he hadn't lost so much blood, if the surgeon had only come, they would know who to notify and where. But what difference does it make? He wasn't anything to her. He wasn't her boyfriend or anything like that. Just another brazier who didn't speak English, just another wetback. You know the kind. The ones who always look ashamed. And what was she doing out at 3 a.m. anyway? Marin, who was sent home with her coat and some aspirin. How does she explain? She met him at a dance, Geraldo in his shiny shirt, green pants, Geraldo going to a dance. What does it matter? They never saw the kitchenettes. They never knew about the 2-room flats and sleeping rooms he rented, the weekly money orders sent home, the currency exchange. How could they? His name was Geraldo, and his home is in another country. The ones he left behind are far away, and they will wonder and shrug and remember, Geraldo, he went north. We never heard from him again. Okay, so this introduces a new thematic idea of immigrants. And we know that Esperanza's family, most likely her father for sure, is an immigrant because he went back to Mexico to bury his father in Papa Who Wakes Up Tired in the Dark, an earlier chapter where his father had died back in Mexico. So this chapter, as I said, is out of chronological order because it brings back the character of Marin. And the basic plot is that this guy Geraldo that she meets at a bar is hit by a hit-and-run automobile accident that night, and he dies at the hospital. Marin accompanies him to the hospital because she was the witness and she was there with him, but she really doesn't know him except for a few hours from that night and doesn't even know his name. So we find out that Geraldo seems not to be treated very well at the hospital because he's an illegal immigrant. It calls him a wetback, for example. And there's a quote that says, if maybe the surgeon would have come, if only he hadn't lost so much blood, if only the surgeon had come, they would know who to notify and where. There seems to be an underlying idea here that maybe he wasn't given urgent medical care because he didn't have health insurance, and that maybe he wasn't treated as well because people looked at him and thought he was impoverished or he was illegal or he didn't have papers. And they just kind of left him there as a patient that they would get to eventually, and then he died and bled out. So Cisneros, the author, gives us some insight into the idea that even though Marin didn't know him, she still felt bad for his situation, but was kind of feeling helpless and didn't know what she was supposed to do. We also find out through the narration that maybe more than what Marin would know about him, in that he also sent money back to his family in Mexico to support them and maybe to eventually get them to come to America. It mentioned that he sent money back to his relatives and they would never know about the 2-room flats, the sleeping rooms he rented, the weekly money orders, the currency exchange. So again, at the very end of the chapter, when he comes to the hospital and dies and no one knows what's happened to him, we find out that, again, his family doesn't know he died and there's no one to notify them. And there's a little bit of dramatic irony there. So if you remember when we talked about dramatic irony, we said it is when we as the reader know something that a character does not. We as the reader know that Geraldo died. His family does not. And the very end of the chapter leaves us with that open-ended question where they say, I wonder what happened to Geraldo. We never heard from him again. And they may have just thought he forgot about them, but we know the truth, and the sad truth, that he was again left and he died unnamed, unnoticed, and unidentifiable. And so again, our author Cisneros is telling us a little bit about the idea that her belief that illegal immigrants often are undervalued in our country. She seems to take a little bit of a stance here that maybe they are not treated as equals by the way that Geraldo was treated at the hospital. And so this is another issue into racism in the book. We had that also seen earlier a little bit with Those Who Don't, who came in talking about people that come in her neighborhoods and think they are dangerous with their shiny knives. So again, the theme of racism is important, and we begin to realize that not all people are treated equally, and that Cisneros and Esperanza, through that character's voice, is able to show us that life is not fair. So those are the 2 chapters for today. Tomorrow you'll have an assignment after the next 2 chapters where you'll be able to analyze some things, and there'll also be a short Google form quiz over some multiple choice from these notes. What you need to do now is you need to maybe read through the notes again. I'll have them posted in Google Classroom, and then you need to take the attendance form and fill it out for attendance for today. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day.